In this specific video, I want to learn you the insights on what it takes to build scalable web applications natively out of Azure, where I'm going to cover 3 different topics. The first one, I'm going to talk about staging and production deployment slots, followed by continuous deployment, and then talking about scaling features per application tier. Let me start with staging and production deployment slots. By using staging and production deployment slots, I'm basically creating a full replica of an already running web application which gets linked to a different URL. This URL is by default the same as the production one, but having the name of test, staging, or development after it. Each deployment slot runs in its own runtime environment. An interesting part here is that from one single button, the swap button, you can basically switch from staging to development to production. Now, when talking about web applications, I also have to talk about DevOps and continuous deployment. Continuous deployment, that your deployment is done from a cloud-based source control. To give you an example, Visual Studio, so by using Visual Studio Team Services, also known as Team Foundation Server in previous editions, or mentioning a non-Microsoft technology, source control integrates with Git, or even another example, Bitbucket. Now, why should you use continuous deployment? First of all, because it provides you version control, which means it allows for rollback. Imagine you're deploying a web application, and then once it's in production, you find some errors in the coding. You go back to the development stage, rolling back your previous changes, publishing another website again, and with a minimum of downtime, it actually allows you to easily upgrade, replace your production running web application. Or branch-specific deployments are also made possible. And then integrating with technology like Kudu deployment, engine tasks are also available to build some kind of automation integration. Now, Azure Web Apps, as you already know, also provide scaling based on your application service tier. So scaling, unfortunately, is not available in the free tier. In Shared and Basic, it's based on the instance size or based on instance count, where you can drag and drop the bar for how many simultaneous instances you want to use out of your web app. Where in the most advanced tiers, Standard and Premium, it's based on instance size, based on instance count, where it also takes schedule scaling into account, scaling by metric, as well as auto-scaling. So a lot more granular features are available to provide scaling.
So then let me go back to my Azure portal and show you where you can specify all those scaling features. So I'm selecting my web app again, and in the settings blade, I'm going to start talking about deployment slots. So here I don't have any yet, so let me configure a new one. And this is development, where I'm going to take a full copy of my existing web application. And then adding a second one, staging. And as you can see from the notification area, it only takes a couple of seconds to actually have a full available slot. So my 2 staging environments are deployed. And as you can see here, I'm connecting to my web application name, where, let me show you again, it's really focusing on staging. Now my production website is still available, but I also added an additional one, which is available through the dash staging, where if I'm going back to my portal, I could now, from this swap functionality, I could easily switch from dev to staging to production. So swap my production environment to staging, executing, and it will immediately execute my swapping. Now, since my website is not completely deployed, it's one of the reasons why there was a short failure message. Let me try in the other direction from production, because obviously I didn't have any copy available yet in the other slots. So that's really easy and really cool to use it. At the same time, let me talk about scale up, scale out. So scale up means give me another pricing plan, which gives me more powerful features, more performance, more instances, more deployment slots, or perform a scale out, which means deploy me multiple instances of the same website, where I can use this drag and drop bar and specifying whenever scaling needs to occur based on the instance count, CPU percentage, or based on a certain schedule. And then again, providing notification and webhooks to have integration with monitoring. So this is what it takes to configure scale up, scale out features, as well as the continuous deployment and deployment slots. I'm inviting you for the next section where I'm going to cover some other Azure platform services besides